On the stream, we have Laurier and Petrus. So Laurier is running what he was calling either an oddball or an out there team. It's up to you guys to decide if that makes sense or not. So what he's using is mutation, create food from water, Bifrost, the rare, Dum Dum Dugan, hardened by war, Spider-Man, War of the Heart, Storm, Morlock Champion, Jubilee Mallrat, Prof X, No More Magnus, Shriek, Sonic Beam, and Blob, Appetite for Destruction. Petrus is running actually a team that I helped him with. It's roughly what I normally play during the week, actually, which is a villain control team running Villainous Pact, Investigation, Norman Osborn, Don't Call Me Gobby, Billy Club, Tool of Justice, Shriek, Sonic Beam, Blob, Appetite for Destruction, Scarlet Witch, Careful What You Wish For, Madam Mask, Nefarious Schemes, Malekith, 13th Son of a 13th Son, and Harley Quinn, Tough Cookie. So let's see what this control can do against what is basically a beatdown deck from Laurier. Alright, so guys, I just leave them as they set up to make sure everyone else is good. Alright guys, so they've started the round. Looks like a Jubilee was already purchased by Laurier, which fits. It's a very good opening turn. There's an investigation by Petrus. Alright, Laurier is really enjoying the realization that Billy Club is on the board. Well, Laurier apparently was out of sequence as he failed to remember that Villainous Pact has that restriction where if there's something in your used, you can't use Villainous Pact. So he's used Cake instead. Alright, so in case anyone's wondering, the reason Petrus has left that Sidekick and Bolt is he's intending to use Malekith to buy Investigation. Or at least I assume that's what he's planning. Yep, there's the Malekith. Pay 1, has the Investigation. And he chooses Cake at the end. Alright, so Laurier is really happy to see that Bifrost, but not the rest of the roll he had. And he's still not happy with the rest of that roll. Alright, so he's, based on the roll, doesn't think he can use that Bifrost effectively. So we'll see what he does to try and recover. So Jubilee on max face, Sidekick to do 1 damage and get that early damage in. There's the Billy Club, and he's Villainous Pacting. Which is an interesting choice when he also has Magnus available and he could have done some more damage. Looks like Petrus missed on the investigation roll, which is unfortunate. But he is able to buy his third. Seems to be thinking about what energy to use for what here. Oh, there's a blob buy. And either a pact or a res. Nope, there's no res, so a pact. So guys, just to reinforce, neither team has Yuanti. So, although I will admit these are already qualified players, so they may just be playing these teams more just for fun, as opposed to anything else, and it's hard to tell. Actually, it's not quite true. I know Laurier chose to play his team purely because he thought it would be fun, because he really enjoys the interaction of Bifrost. One damage off Jubilee sidekick. Billy clubbing. And generate another sidekick for another damage. Thank you, Prof. And Bifrost it down to a shield. And buys a blob. So we now have a blob floating on both sides. Let's see who gets their blob first. And Petrus pulled his blob. Let's see if he can get it on board. Looks like he'll be able to, as he rolled its face. And there's the investigation trigger. Petrus rolled some good faces here. The investigation only got him 2 sidekicks. Less good. Still not bad, but less good. Petrus just named Blob with Blob. That was an interesting choice. I mean, I might have considered naming Morlock, but I happen to also be more familiar with how Morlock works compared to Petrus. And Billy Club trigger. That way you get Madame Mask on as potential. And a cake trigger. Just to get rid of that one sidekick that was in his bag. Now what I'm hoping is Petrus' long-term plan is get Madame Mask on board and then use Malekith to reset his blob for a different target. Because once that Madame Mask is on board, he does not care about Shriek or Blob from Laurier. Well, Laurier got lots of energy, but no sidekick. So that Bifrost, if he uses it, he's going to have to pull Jubilee out. And now he's just humming and hawing, trying to decide if it's worth giving up that Jubilee. Oh, he's contemplating the Morlock. Oh, he's caking, yep. That way he can then use the Magnus Global. Yep, so he's already got the Storm, Bifrost Flood. Brings up the sidekick with Prof. So for 1 damage, and bringing out the Storm with thanks to the Bifrost trigger. But he has no energy to follow up to get that Storm to actually try and remove anything. But still pretty good turn. And for those questioning, I do realize there's still the ability to use I believe Bifrost and possibly Billy Club, but I mean, at this point, Laurier's got a decent field. We'll see what Petrus does in response. Well, Petrus hit one of the investigations. He can re-roll the other. If he can get both, that's pretty good for him. And I think he got both investigations. So there's the first one for draw 2 and roll, which includes his mask, but Madame Mask, Madame Mask even hit. Looks like he's going to start getting that lockdown in. But first, the second investigation. A little more energy. He's caking. And Professor X to get a sidekick. And there's Madame Mask. Of course, there's still investigation left that he could buy if he wanted to. Oh. Buying a Scarlet Witch. Okay. And Pacting. Aside from the sake of Scarlet Witch being a villain, I'm not sure why he bought her at this moment. Probably would have bought Shriek myself, or any of the other 3 costs. I mean, yes, the Scarlet does stop the Bifrost, but currently only 1 Bifrost has been purchased. Alright, we got some more sidekick pings. And apparently Laurier has developed a twitch in his finger. There's a Billy Club Global and a Bifrost Global. Buying a Dugan, so he's starting to go into his win con. There's a sidekick for another ping. It's been a lot of pings off sidekicks. And a pact. So now he's got most of the sidekicks out of the way. So that draw should be relatively good. Bifrost is nice to see. We'll see if Petrus picks up his Scarlet. Does not look like it. Although there is an investigation there, so he still could get to the Scarlet. Oh, there might be a Scarlet there. Alright, looks like we did actually hit that Scarlet. So that Bifrost may not be as relevant. We'll see. There's the Harley. So in case people aren't aware, that is the promo version Harley from the OP kit, which is also the same one as the rare. Basically what it is that while it is on board with other villains at the start of your turn, you will gain a life and your opponent will lose a life. It's primarily on the team as a way to further counter Attune after you've locked down some of the parts, since Attune tends to still be able to do a damage or 2 around, and you can just kind of counter it. It's not a perfect counter, but it certainly does help, and it gives the villain control team just that little bit of extra damage before softening up your opponent until the knobbies start hitting. Dum Dum on board. Bifrost did not hit. There is a blob at the back, which can't be fielded because the other blob is currently naming it. And Laurier is just saying he kind of wished that the blob and Bifrost had been inverted. Trying to remember if he's Billy Clubbed yet or not. So there's the Billy Club. Just buying more Dugans because eventually they will be very powerful, especially once he buys the Spider-Man. All right, there's another damage off the Magnus Global. And he's attacking with Dugan, who is +3 right now. So Dugan is a 6-2. Random sidekick to block. Sidekick's gone. Petrus has got that investigation going again. I'm wondering if at some point he will buy the third. As normally when I play this team, I would have bought the third by now, but different people have different preferences. Because at the same time, Laurier is playing a slower team, so maybe that's why Petrus has decided he didn't need it. And there's a Magnus Global. Just getting some bodies back on board. And there's the Malekith. So he's buying his last investigation, I expect. Oh, Billy Club. My bad. I find it interesting that he chose to KO a sidekick as opposed to KOing Blob, since his Madame Mask is there, so the Blob on Laurier's side wouldn't actually be able to do much anyways. Petrus is staring down a lot of energy here. Well, I don't think he has any fists, so he can't buy his Nobbies. At this point, I'd personally be buying Shriek, Investigation, even yeah, really just Shriek and Investigation. This would be all that's left for him to buy. We'll see if he agrees or if he goes somewhere else. Oh, Billy Club, also valid. And there's the third investigation finally. All right, over Laurier. So Laurier was just going on about needing a lot of luck here, and what he drew was not what he was looking for. All right, Laurier is trying to see, is keeping the rest, which makes sense because one's Blob on double energy, which he can't field anyways. Dugan's always good. Sidekick's is good with the Dugan. That's a lot of shields though. There's the Dugan. And a sidekick for another ping of damage from Jubilee. Still a whole bunch of shields left. And Laurier is humming and hawing over his next move. He's trying to decide what's the better of the options. Yep, buying a Dum-Dum. That makes perfect sense. And there's a Billy Club Global. And passing turn. It's interesting, given he generated a mask, but he has no targets for that mask in order to Magnus on Petrus' turn. I'm curious to see what he's doing with this play. Oh, he may actually end up, if I'm guessing correctly, caking using that shield and then presumably using Magnus on whatever he kicks, if it comes out as a sidekick. All right, so let's see what Petrus got. Billy Club. He's trying to get rid of that Jubilee. Let's see if it comes back or not. Oop, it went. It's gone. That's good. It should slow down the damage a bit. And it looks like he has an investigation. Yep. So there's his draw 2 off the investigation. Let's see if he can get another investigation. Nope, looks like 2 sidekicks. But he's got a fair number of fists, so I expect he'll be buying some knobbies. And his villainous pack, just so he doesn't forget and do it in the wrong time. There's his first knobby. And now he finally uses Malekith to KO the blob, since its target doesn't matter due to the one target there. Oh, all right. He went and used the mutation in order to trigger the awaken of Morlock Champion to see if the Scarlet Witch can go away. And the Scarlet Witch hit face, so it goes back to where it started. That was a good ploy by Laurier, just to see if he can be able to get his Bifrost up and running, but I guess not. Some energy. So Laurier is getting a little frustrated at this point. See, he's not getting what he wants to see. But, I mean, that's the nature of a dice game, right? Every die is only 1 in 6 chance of getting any one face, even with that reroll, since they're all unique rolls. Yes, I realize on average, a reroll does change percentages, but since each one is unique and doesn't depend on the previous, math still says other things sometimes. All right, buying yet another Dugan. If he can get all those Dugans and that Spider-Man on board, Petrus might be taking a fair bit of damage. Still surprised Petrus hasn't put out something to try and counter the Dugans. Attacking with 2 Dugans, who are 6/2s. Petrus is currently at 10, even though you guys can't see the die quite. So I'm presuming he's going to block at least 1 Dugan with a Psychic. Yep. Interesting. So Petrus is letting his board be KO'd in order to KO both Dugans. There's a Billy Club trigger after the blockers are declared. There's a Cake trigger. Laurier is trying to see if he can get some shenanigans in here. Cake pulled a Dugan. And he's going to get rid of it into used. Interesting. Then he's going to pact for another Dugan. He did buy all 4. Makes sense. And all their stuff's dead. Let's see if Petrus can rebuild that board. All right. Oh, looks like he hit a lot of character faces. Actually, all the character faces. Oh, wow. So that looks like 2 investigations, 4 characters, and 3 energy. This is going to be a good turn for Petrus. So first investigation trigger. Pulled out a billy club, and he had to reload for the second die. Ooh, it's a knobby. This could be interesting. The knobby did not hit, though. So another investigation. Sadly, there are no more knobbies in that bag. But energy is still energy. All right, I was starting to get concerned with all the fists that Petrus is spending, since he kind of wants those to buy more knobbies. All right, and he called Dugan with the blob, so now, at least for the moment, Laurier has lost his win con. We'll see what he does to respond. There's a second knobby buy. All right. I think Petrus is in a fairly good spot at this point. I also like that he's the only player so far to keep putting his head in camera view. All right, so those 3 dum-dums that Laurier has set up there, really he wants to see those energy, or he needs to be able to see something he can use to remove the blob. He was really happy to see the Jubilee. I'm not sure why he's trying to keep the dum-dum. I feel like I might be missing something in his plan. Oh, he's probably going to use Morlock in order to see if he can field the dum-dums by getting rid of blob. Yep. Does the blob stay or leave? Blob stays. Look, I'm betting Laurier will do it a second time, assuming that Morlock is not on max face. Okay. So he's billy clubbed so that he has 2 masks. First one will use for mutation to undo the last mutation, and then he'll do it again to redo it, to force the blob to be re-rolled again. And the blob is gone. There's a Dugan on board again. And he spun down a sidekick so that he could get both Dugans on board. They're both 4-2. Now, at this point, Petrus probably does have to block. He's only at 10. He may take 1 to the face and just accept it. If I was him, I would probably have kept the Madam Mask. But at least the layout he just did does KO everything, so that he still has potential to have them off board and get that blob back at some point. And I feel like we should buy Petrus a some sort of dice rolling mechanic so that he stops rolling them all over the place. But it does make it more fun to watch. Oh, sorry, he's just adjusting because he accidentally grabbed a fielded die and added it to his reserve. And it's been now corrected. Looks like we have a billy club. Not sure if the characters came back or not. I see billy clubs the Jubilee again. And Jubilee survives it. And there's a pact play. And now a trigger of investigation. Missing the blob, that's quite unfortunate. I should mention, folks, this is probably the longest game we have on the stream for one round, or one round of game, just because these are both much more build-up decks. Thankfully, I do not believe we're going to have a villain control mirror, as I know there was another player that was considering playing it, and I don't believe they are. Otherwise, that could be a very long match. All right, so looks like Laurier did hit 2 of the Dugans. Did not hit Bifrost, but I don't think that's the end of the world, because those Dugans at this point are more important. And Petrus just sat on energy last round. Probably would have bought some more Normans. There's a sidekick ping. Jubilee may only do a little bit of damage at a time, but when you're playing against another slower team, she can really put in damage. All right, and Laurier just won. All right, guys, we'll be back with the round summary in a moment, and then on to the next round.